So yeah, let me check in with you. How do you feel about anxiety? How much does it affect your life? It's making me want to tap with you guys, but let's do some of these other energy hacks and we'll see where this takes us. So the reset thump. So this is one, and I find this if you are having spiral thoughts. So I've shared this with lots of people over the years. I don't actually know where I got it from. I know that there's a one of the Ortners has a book called Gorilla Thumps. There is a lot of research around, the thalamus here and doing this. And I know that when I saw Bruce Lipton speak, he would say to himself, if there was a thought that was coming in that he didn't like, he would imagine it like on a video. We say video, but it was on a video recorder in his head. And he would actually say to himself, you know what? I'm going to rewind and reset. I'm just going to rewind that and reset it. So I often could be a little bit melancholic in car rides on the side of Spanish mountains. Not that I've done it a huge amount, but I would find myself sometimes in a car, I'd be like, looking down a mountain, or if I was in some sort of trek, it was happened in Ireland as well, on this sort of, through the pass through the mountains, beautiful scenery. But all I could think was the car might go. The car might, and I could just see it. I have a very active imagination. I could just see the car. We would all come out of this car. And I kept noticing, I think why am I getting this thought, this reoccurring thought? So I would practice what Bruce Lipton would say, but it wouldn't be enough for me just to go rewind, reset. So, and you can do this now. If you have a spiral thought, this is great to show kids as well. Someone who's just being repetitive with you about something that hasn't happened is like this, and you just reset, and you just banging. And I like to do it quite hard, but go easy with your own body, but it's just reset. So if you find that, okay, there's a thought coming in, or I've done it when I've judged somebody, and I've thought, I've judged those people, that person. I've gone, you know what, reset. I want to kind of take that back. I want to tell my soul, and I want to tell my mind, and I want to tell my body, reset that. You do not need to think that again. And I've just found that incredibly helpful for in the moment, quick hack. Really good for kids as well. You can be like, this is the gorilla, but this reset, I think, has genuinely really helped me. And when I've had clients with chronic anxiety, I will often say to them, you might need to do this 50 times a day. You might need to just be like, reset, and they might not thump, they might reset. And just to kind of like notice, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to get us to notice, like, oh, okay, there's an anxious thought coming in, rather than it flooding our system and creating all of those physiological and emotional reactions. It's, okay, I'm going to intercept it. I'm going to change that state. I'm going to move this thought pattern off down a different road in my brain. So that's one. You may know it, you may not, but just I encourage you this week, if there is a thought, and a spiral thought, an anxious thought, a thought you just don't like, just reset and tell yourself you've got this. I found it incredibly helpful. So this one is a little bit more of the mind. It's a little bit more just understanding that it's a wave. And this has been helpful to share with people who have had panic attacks, is this understanding of, showing them the science and the data, which I'm not going to get into it with you now, because I actually don't think you need it. But there is research, if you want to go and look, be my guest, where the actual physiological surge of a panic attack is about 90 seconds if you don't attach to it. So that, and it's this feeling of, okay, I can get through 90 seconds. I can get through 90 seconds. And knowing, this is 90 seconds. I can get through that. I don't need to attach to this feeling, and talking to people and letting people know, it's a feeling. Don't get attached to it. And you can obviously give them the tools then, like to ride that 90-second wave. But I think often to help people who are suffering, or yourselves, with like, you know, a deep whoosh or deep flooding of anxiety, of to kind of go, it's 90 seconds, I can ride this. And if you can change the physiological state, you might not be able to in that 90 seconds, but to know, okay, I need to change this physiological state. Now, I'm interested to hear other people's opinions around this, of whether this would work for you or work for other people. But I have found it helpful to kind of share that knowledge of like, this is 90 seconds. It kind of reminds me of when I was trying to quit smoking, and I was a really heavy smoker. I smoked like 20 to 30 a day from about 16 until about 25, actually 14 until about 25. And how I ended, it took me 3 attempts to quit smoking, but it was this knowledge of this 6-minute craving. If I can get through 6 minutes, and I would use tapping, if I can get through these 6 minutes, I can be out the other side of that craving. And I might need to, the 6 minutes, when I first started doing it, the 6 minutes would go past, and then, you know, with anxiety, I need a cigarette. And I might only get a 10-minute gap before that came again, especially in those early days. I might be like, oh, okay, I got through the 6 minutes. Okay, right. And then 10 minutes later, 20 minutes later, I might get another 6 minutes. And in the beginning, it was really hard to kind of manage those 6 minutes. I'd be like, oh God, another 6 minutes. But after a week, it was, you know, 6 minutes every 2 to 3 hours. And then the 6 minutes didn't happen anymore. So it's just like giving ourselves some tools and some knowledge around, okay, it's 90 seconds. What can I do for 90 seconds? Or do I just sit with this? Do I just ride the wave? So that's just some knowledge, understanding, 90 seconds. Okay. Now, this is my favorite one. So this is a brain dump and a tap. And maybe if we have time, we'll do it. So when I used to run tap and write sessions, which by the way, we'll be starting again soon, I would always encourage people to do a brain dump. So what this means is you are free writing. You are just writing how you feel, what you feel about it, you know, basically flow of consciousness, stream of consciousness. You don't take your pen off the page. If you can, honestly, write with a fountain pen, because it doesn't inhibit your writing. It's a really, that in itself is a really good hack. Just get yourself a fountain pen. And I mean, if you like pens, then you can actually, I'm going off on the side here, but if you like pens, you can get a Lamy, and I have like coloured ink for my pens. So I have all reds and greens and purples, and this gives me a lot of joy. But I will say, you don't need it's not a fancy pen, it's just fancy ink cartridges. But this flowing with your handwriting, pen to paper, there isn't anything else like it. I mean, I can touch type 40 words a minute. It's a very different experience to writing with a fountain pen. So I would get one of those if you really want to get into brain dumping. So what this will do is, and if we keep it on the topic of anxiety, is like, okay, I've identified this thing that makes me feel anxious. For example, you know, moving to Bali, highly anxious before I actually did it. And sometimes we don't automatically just go to tapping. So this is a really good bridge to it, is set a timer for 10 minutes and write out all of the things that you are anxious about, either one particular thing you're anxious about or everything you're anxious about. Just 10 minutes, write it out. And you can have a rant, you can say anything you like. You're not going to show anybody else at all. You're just going to get it out of your head onto the page. Now, that in itself is an intervention for anxiety, you know, just kind of removing this flooding emotions and putting it on a page. That already is an intervention. Now, because I know you're all tappers, if then you've got, you know, a page of writing Then you tap, you read it out to yourself, and you just tap through it. You don't necessarily have to be following the protocol. And I know most of you, not all of you, are seasoned tappers. So you will have like muscle memory. So that's how I see it. It's like the longer you tap, you're basically, as soon as you start doing this, you're sending a signal to your body, okay, time to calm down. Time to calm down now. So it's like, for example, I used to swim for my town when I was a teenager. I was a really good swimmer till I started smoking. And I, had really good stroke. I was a sprinter. And all through my life, I can get in a swimming pool and I can swim 20 lengths because I have a really good technique, and it's muscle memory. I know how to swim. And I see tapping like that you're building this habit, you're building this kind of saying, you know what, this is my tool to signal to my body to calm down. And that's the beauty of it, because anytime anything happens, physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, however you want to look at it, something happens in your life. If you create a habit that you just start tapping straight away, what you're doing is saying to your system, okay, time to calm about this. Time to be calm about this. I'm taking some space to be calm about this. So if you have any anxious thoughts coming in, or you have that feeling in your chest, or you notice that you're ruminating about something, you're spiraling about something, tapping is also, as we know, an intervention into anxiety. If you bring these two things together, where you have brain dumped, it's almost like, I used to say, it's a bit like kind of being sick of your emotions onto the page. You're literally just going, I don't want to, I want this out of my head and onto the page. And then setting a timer and just, it's okay. And just tapping through all the things that you've said, just saying them out loud to yourself. Noticing, are there any like spikes in emotions, some of the stuff that you land on? Or maybe there isn't. But if there is a big spike on the emotion, just to keep rereading that sentence over and over again, like, I'm so anxious. What if Bali doesn't work out? I don't know how I'm going to cope as a single parent. I don't know if I'm going to cope. I don't know if I'm going to cope. Breathing, tapping, and just saying that sentence over and over again until you bring the charge down on it. So once you've done your brain dump, and a tap through that, I think what you will have at the end of it is more clarity about what are just sort of clouding thoughts that are stacking on top of actually what is the core stuff that I really want to attend to. What I think, I'm going to do an out of anxiety that I'm feeling. So that is my kind of, we can talk through lots of different pieces in the body, but these are kind of three of my favorite and what I use for myself and for clients. So let me check in with you, see if